The Mega Man franchise is a classic that refuses to die. Even though Capcom hasn't expressed a lot of love for the Blue Bomber, one aspect that has never gone away is the unfaltering love the fans have for the series, which can be easily attested by the plethora of games they've been putting out ever since its inception. Mega Man Rock and Roll is yet another one added to that long list. But what sets this one apart is how well polished this little gem is. This isn't just a ROM hack that was stitched together, it's a full-blown new Mega Man game developed by Dennis Engelhardt. It features new music, stages, enemies, and much more. However, there's something else that earns this game a special spotlight. It puts an interesting spin by letting you take control of Ro. Yep, her days of housekeeping is gone. She's now an independent go-get-them girl who needs no man. Not that other games in the franchise have ever done that, Mega Man Power Dub comes to mind, but there she was just a side character with a gimmicky gameplay as an extra challenge. Here she's a fully realized character and far more enjoyable to play as. How did Sweet Ro go from mopping the floor with a broom to mopping the pavement with Wiles' henchmen? Well, the story starts with Robot Masters being abducted by a bunch of strange flying machines, and those same robots later come back to wreak havoc in the city. Mega Man starts in the intro stage, trying to stop that even more robots get abducted. However, not only is he not able to prevent it, but he gets caught as well. It is then that Dr. Light, without any other recourse, has to rely on Ro to save the day. Dr. Light equips Ro with a new fancy set of toys, and she goes on her way to help Mega Man, managing to free him, and that's when the game truly starts. It's a classic Mega Man setup, basic but functional. I gotta say though that I appreciate this change in the structure of how Mega Man as a character is treated. The old games followed, with some negligible exceptions, the same predictable formula of something happens, Mega Man intervenes and saves the day. I'm glad that this game went in the opposite direction and made him more vulnerable. Now he's the one who needs to be saved. It makes for an interesting plot device, and I admit I would have liked to see more of that than it is pursued. In the same vein as the other entries, you can choose from 8 stages, each with its specific themes and bosses. You're also given the choice to play as either Mega Man or Ro, each possessing their strengths and weaknesses. Mega Man, for example, can charge his buster and takes less damage, but lacks in mobility and is heavier compared to Ro, who is more agile and able to do a second jump from her booster attachment, very reminiscent of the Rush Jet adapter in 6 and 7. There is no content specific to each character, and you can free to switch between them before any of the 8 stages. So it's just a matter of which gameplay suits you best, and I can definitely say I prefer Rose. She's a lot of fun to play with, and unlike the Rush Jet adapter in 6 and 7, her booster ability here doesn't have a considerable delay in its startup, nor its execution is too slow or floaty. It functions exactly like a double jump, which is a lifesaver and elevates the simplistic controls of the original to a whole new level, just like the X series did with the dash and wall climbing. She's pretty balanced though, and as much as her double jump slash gliding ability gives her an edge in platforming, it's not so pronounced as to render all challenges moot. The gameplay is pretty much what you expect from the classic Mega Man title, you jump and shoot. However, it does carry over the quality of life improvements that, if I remember correctly, were introduced in Mega Man 11, such as being able to use the analog stick to instantly switch weapons and a dedicated rush coil button, and here, if quickly pressed twice, Rush Jet comes instead. The stages are very well planned, with interesting environments, varied enemies, and well thought out obstacles. But most importantly, they're fair. As you might know, the old games have often unforgiving stages with hair-pulling segments. I do think that one-hit kill hazards and other frustrating obstacles are part of the classic Mega Man DNA, but older iterations did tend to go a tad overboard with that. Here, however, I enjoy how the creator made sure to make the game challenging while it's fun. It's not that those segments aren't present, it's just that they are on a much lesser scale and shorter in duration, so they don't overstay their welcome. I found the difficulty to be pretty stable throughout the Robot Master stages, only wrapping up considerably once you reach Willy's Fortress. It's still the old Mega Man difficulty though, so keep that in mind. Some people might find it too hard, but as a Mega Man veteran, I can attest that this game falls on the easier side of the spectrum. And not because it was purposely dumbed down, but rather as a consequence of good design. The same is true for the bosses, especially the Robot Masters, which despite mostly having a run-of-the-mill themes, you got the fire-based one, ice, water, and so on, are very unique in both their design and attack patterns. I also commend the creator for balancing the gender ratio by not only including more female robots, but also giving them more prominent roles. While growing up playing the franchise, it kinda always bugged me how the classic and the X series heavily lacked female representation, even more so in meaningful roles. In any case, most of the robot masters fall under the easier side of the spectrum, having about 2 or 3 repeating attacks without any randomness. But even the hardest bosses, such as Polar Woman and those in the Wheelie Fortress, have telegraphed attacks that are not hard to learn with a little bit of perseverance. As in any other classic Mega Man title, you start with 2 lives. Here, however, you can collect only 3 tanks and 1 W tank. That's interesting because there's also no shop to buy items, which makes me think that it was done on purpose to eliminate any tedious grinding and discourage players to load up on lives, E-tanks, and other crutches to face tank everything. You gotta play smart here and you won't be able to cheese as easily. That doesn't mean the creator didn't have any mercy on the most observant of us. If you're low on lives, go to Ghost Woman's stage, take the upper path with the stairs, and in the room with the swing spike boss, there's a purple bat that upon defeat will drop either a big HP pallet or a life. If you need a W tank at the start of Missile Man's stage, immediately drop down to your first right. I don't know of any super convenient E-tanks, but the easiest ones to reach are Missile Man's and Lady Beetles. However, those tips are only available for the Robot Master stages, since going back there from any Wheelie stage will erase all your progress and you will have to start the Wheelie Castle from the beginning. That again further proves that the creator purposely intended to discourage the players from trying to cheese the game by face tanking. The weapons you acquire are not only fun to use but also have functional side effects integrated into the environment. For example, Reactor Man's laser can charge devices that reward you with items, or Tide Man's shield which gives you buoyancy in water, besides also being a great shield, though not as OP as Geo's Satellite from 9. My favorite one though is Lady Beetles. I love to unleash the Ladybugs of Doom and watch them murder every enemy that tries to come close. Too bad it requires a lot of energy and they don't follow you through screen transition. In any case, every weapon has some particular effect that you can use to your advantage, and I appreciate that added level of flavor to what is otherwise rather dull and unimaginative. I mean, honestly, pretty much every effect has already been done at this point, so I'm glad by this bit of creativity brought by the creator. What also makes a comeback from past titles is finding 8 letters that are scattered throughout each level, and collecting them all nets you a nice upgrade for both Mega Man and Brawl. In Mega Man's case, it increases his Buster Child 1 more level, thus dishing out more damage. On Brawl's side, it makes her second jump reach a little bit higher. I found Mega Man's upgrade to be the most useful since some enemies and bosses don't always have their guard open, so when you do get to fire a charged shot, the extra damage is really helpful. Brawl, on the other hand, has few segments that take advantage of her upgrade. It might even be detrimental since the extended boost makes you more vulnerable to an incoming attack. Besides that, you have the option to find and save 4 robots that will capture and brainwash, and doing so will prompt them to help you in the Wheelie stages by unlocking gates to supplies and by leading you through alternative paths that can function as a shortcut or have even more supplies. The only issue I had is that if you get a game over and choose continue, the Robot Master won't lead you through the alternative path anymore. It's a one-time thing, so you gotta reload the save and to restore that functionality. I don't understand the reason behind that design choice, it's more of a minor convenience than anything. The soundtrack is nothing short of amazing though. Juhani Junkala composed it, and it fits every stage theme like a glove, with that distinct 8-bit energy and nostalgic vibe that we all know and love. It's unmistakably Mega Man music. He's done an excellent job overall, and personally, I'd say the boss battle and missile base are my favorite ones. On the technical side, there's quite a bit of configuration that can be done in the options menu, such as toggling VSync and key rebinding. But the one I find the most useful is the ability to turn off the button combination down plus jump for slide, which reduces a lot of accidental inputs, especially if you're moving the character with an analog stick rather than the D-pad. I also remapped the slide to R2, which made controllability even better. Moreover, if you're using a controller, you can change the button prompts to use the design of either Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, or some generic one. Though I miss the inclusion of shaders. I understand some people don't like them, but I find the jagged edges of pixelated games to be too rough on the eyes, and I welcome the brush-like softness that shaders produce. Aside from the main game, you can also access a boss and stage time attack from the main menu. Those are just extra modes if you want to challenge yourself and provide no new content to be unlocked. However, this is the only place you can play as Proto Man. I'd have loved though if we could play the entire game as him, maybe even with a different intro and ending. Now, onto some things that bother me. There's this persistent stuttering that happens from time to time. I don't know what's the source of that. I guess it's poor optimization, but I can't say for sure. I don't think it's a problem on my end though. I have a decent rig that is more than enough to run this game without any frame drops. I felt that Bro sometimes takes a bit too much damage. I guess it was implemented as a trade-off because of her upgraded mobility, but I think it's a bit overwhelming, especially because she can charge her buster like Mega Man, so that should already work as a trade-off. I reduced the damage she takes by 1 point. Also, it's a bit jarring that the game lets you play with either Mega Man or Bro for the 8 stages, but then it locks you down when using both characters for the Wheelie stages. I understand that strategy for the intro stage since it's setting up for the eventual playable Bro twist. However, having played the initial 8 stages with Bro, it took me quite a while to get readapted with Mega Man. It's just odd to give the player the possibility of playing so much of the game with just one character and then switch all of a sudden. What I mean is, if the diversity of gameplay was the goal, then I'd rather have the same system that was implemented for the boss revenge section. By that I mean you'd swap characters every time you clear a stage. It makes even more sense story-wise. I mean, one character wouldn't just sit around doing nothing, while the other is fighting murderous robots. Finally, I wish the story was a bit more developed. I understand that the classic series has always had a cartoon simplicity to it, but for once I'd have liked to see the stakes be a little bit higher, with more character development, and here it's more aggravating because the characters don't have any dialogue, they only speak by gesture. I wanted to see more of Ro's development as a character. For example, I think she saved Mega Man a bit too soon. The creator could have made him the inter-stage boss, or maybe even the last boss. Imagine an epic showdown between Bro and him. The point being, I'd have welcomed more unpredictability than what we got. I think it would have made things even more exciting. All that considered, it's still a great game. You can feel the love and soul oozing from this little project, so much so that one could easily mistake it for an official release. And to be honest, in many ways it surpasses official releases. For instance, while I appreciate that Mega Man 11 introduced the fun, but ultimately broken, double gear system, that game's length was shorter and its content was boring compared to older iterations. There are no secrets to be discovered, and there are only 4 wheelie stages. Not to mention the lack of female robots. I mean, come on Capcom, where are my robot waifus? Projects like these show that where Capcom fails, you can leave to the fans to give the franchise the love it deserves, and I for sure can't wait to see what they're cooking up next. I'm eagerly awaiting Mega Man X Corrupted, which seems to be the next fan game around, but judging by the pace of its development, I hope that Science comes up with a way to upload my consciousness to an Android before I die. Mega Man Rock and Roll is available for Windows and Linux. I have a link in the description below if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you do so. I mean, the game's free, it can't hurt. Now, I want to hear your thoughts about the game, or any other feedback you might have. Leave a comment below, and if you like my content, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and consider supporting through my Patreon. It's just $1. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.